Hello, amazing humans. Today, I want to talk about how often do you say, I'm sorry? I'm sorry for asking you this question, but it's really important. So, comment below. Are you aware of how often you say, I'm sorry? And do you know why you say, I'm sorry so often? And I apologize for the background noise. I have a sublimation printer that goes through a maintenance cycle, so it just happened to kick on. So I this came to me the other day because I was talking with someone and they kept saying I'm sorry and I was like, stop saying I'm sorry. You didn't do anything wrong. And so then it got me thinking that this would be a really good video topic. And because we've been talking about, stop saying I'll try or stop saying I don't know. And so today I really just want to say stop saying I'm sorry so much. And I went and did some Google research like I always do, so that I had some like points that I could share with you because I mean I have my own thoughts on it, but I wanted to give you some, I guess, credentialed thoughts on it. And so again, how often do you say I'm sorry? I know from my own experiences that as a child, I would hear things like this. Say, I'm sorry for taking that toy, or say, I'm sorry. Go tell them you're sorry. Or, it's, you're almost conditioned to be over apologetic. And while an apology it's sometimes it's called for, it's become a habit and people overuse the I'm sorry. And the only time that I'm sorry actually would be appropriate is if you have done something wrong and you're taking full responsibility and accountability for it, and an apology is needed. So, one of the things, and I wanted to read this to you. So, some of the consequences is that it can lead, now, this is coming from a mental health professional say that, oh, and before I forget, I just want to give credit where credit's due. I got this from the Zoe report, Wellness Psychology of Apologizing Too Much, and it reveals a much deeper issue. So I did get this off of Google. This was written by Jessica Estrada, March 27th of 2023. So there, I wanted to, and if anybody wants the link, if they want to go read it themselves, I'll try to remember to put it in the description. So, but like I said, I wanted to give credit where credit was due on anything that I quote or share. So here's what she says in this article. It says, although it may seem harmless, being overly polite habit, it comes with consequences. Mental health professionals say that over apologizing can lead to resentment towards others, shame around one's identity, and a constant struggle to stand up for oneself. And here's why. At its core, over apologizing is self betrayal, explains Kobe Campbell, a licensed trauma therapist and author of the upcoming book, Why Am I Like This? How to Break Cycles, Heal from Trauma, and Restore Your Faith. It's saying, I will take the blame and the consequences when they don't belong to me, which that actually wires your brain over time to believe that the fault actually is yours. And that's not healthy. So again, this is really important as you're shifting your mindset. Start to pay attention and having, I just wanted to bring this to your awareness because again, shifting your mindset, and it's about taking back your power, empowering yourself, right? I mean, that's what I do. I'm an empowerist coach. I want to empower you to live, be, and do all that you want to do in this lifetime, and you deserve it. So if you are someone who over apologizes, save this video, come back to it so that if you need to hear someone telling you that it's okay to stop apologizing all the time and to have some accountability, then save this video. So here's what else is said. Vienna Farone, I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm sorry. Again, I don't know the name, but she's a licensed, I'm guessing Vienna, is a licensed marriage and family therapist and author of The Origins of You, says that this habit strips away your self-confidence. So if you have a lack of self-confidence, saying I'm sorry all the time just keeps compounding that, keeps building it, keeps that wire, that neural pathway open that you're less than. So self-confidence is really important, and we want to have self-confidence in how we show up in the world and who we are and what we have to offer. So if you do have low self-esteem or low self-confidence, you probably are someone who's saying I'm sorry a lot. And you keep repeating or communicating to your brain that you have to shrink, you have to be smaller, you have to hide who you are. And so again, this is to empower you to take back your power of saying, I don't have to shrink. I can be who I am. I am valued. My feelings are of value. And all of the things that you have value, you have worth. And the other thing is that it teaches you to stay silent and to be agreeable. And again, I do think it goes back to our early childhood. A lot of things go back to our early childhood where we learn that we have to say I'm sorry even if we're not wrong. And so it's because that's good behavior. It's having good manners, you're being apologetic. It's like you really probably have been taught that it's a good thing to be over apologetic, right? But over time, it really can mess with your self-esteem, your confidence. And I know a lot of people, the clients that I work with, they shrink. And I really just want you to let your light shine. You're perfect as you are, and you don't have to take responsibility for everybody else's bullshit. So let me say that again. You do not have to take responsibility for everybody else's bullshit. You only have to take responsibility for yourself. And if you do something that requires an apology, then yes, absolutely say, I'm sorry. So, what I really want you to hear is to maybe for the next week, just notice or ask someone that's close to you. Do you think I say I'm sorry a lot? And there are going to be some people in your life who they're used to you saying I'm sorry and taking responsibility for their bullshit. So it might feel a little uncomfortable when you stop saying I'm sorry because you may notice that people are more that's what they expect from you. And when you show up differently, it shifts things. So again, this might take a little bit of time, but start taking back your power and stop saying, I'm sorry. And then in this report or in this article that I printed out, here are some tips for you. So reflect on why you tend to apologize. The first step in breaking this habit is recognizing when you tend to do it. To do so, reflect on what situations or around which people you feel most pressured to over apologize. So you may not over apologize to everybody. There may be particular people in your life that you over apologize to. So reflect on that. Ask yourself those questions like, who am I constantly saying I'm sorry to? And that's again, you're bringing this awareness so that you can shift and change how you're showing up in the world. So, what is it about that person that maybe you're over apologizing to? What makes you feel that you have to take on their blame that's not yours? So, they actually said here, ask yourself, what is it about them that makes me want to take on blame that is not mine? And Campbell advises, and what is it about them that makes me want to engage in self betrayal, even when it's not intentional? So, again, reflect on when and who you tend to apologize to. And then the next thing is get curious about why you do it. Over apologizing reveals, and this is by Farron, um, and again, I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce the name, but over apologizing reveals an unhealed wound from the past. So understanding why you do it in the first place is a key part of the healing process. And she recommends getting curious about the origins of the habit by asking yourself this question: what does it try to protect me from? In what ways has apologizing kept me safe or gotten me something I wanted or needed in the past? And then that understanding becomes the gateway to changing your relationship with apologizing and ultimately leads you to feeling more empowered and confident. So again, this is right up my alley, you guys, because I want you to be empowered. I want you to take back your power and to let your light shine and to stop shrinking. As you begin to unpack whatever or what over apologizing serves, you can start to use apologies when needed and stand in your confidence in the other moments. And then the other suggestion here is to pause before responding. Over apologizing is often, because it's a habit, it's like a reflexive, like it's a reflex. And so you do it without even realizing that you're doing it. And so, and again, this was brought up because I was having a conversation and she said, I'm sorry several times. And I went, you don't have to apologize. And she said, oh, I'm sorry. And then she laughed. She's like, you're right. I don't have to apologize. I didn't do anything wrong. So again, if you don't have someone that can help you stop yourself, that's where taking back some of your power. And this is where the pause is really important before you start to apologize, or just start noticing and having that awareness that you are over apologizing and who you're over apologizing to. And Campbell says that it often happens when we want to respond to other people's discomfort immediately because we feel uncomfortable when our choices aren't well received. So again, you have to be comfortable in being uncomfortable. And again, this video, I'm trying to show up and coach you and teach you things here. And so sometimes, if you don't have someone who can catch that for you, then hire a coach, whether it's me or anybody else. I mean, this isn't a sales pitch, but if this is something that you want to work through and to, I don't want to say overcome, but to take back your power, then find someone that can assist you in doing so, because your self-confidence, your self-esteem, and your self-worth, it's all connected to over apologizing. All right. And then pause before responding. How many times have I said, if you guys have been following me for a while, how many times have I said just pause? take a take an exhale first, like exhale, and then take a breath, and then think about what you want to respond to someone, or what you want to say or do or be, right? All right. So, and then she also gives, this brief pause, it gives you a chance to say something differently than I'm sorry. And I'll get to that in just a minute. So here's what the next thing to do is, and that's practice responding with alternative phrases. One of the best phrases is thank you for bringing that to my awareness, or just thank you. You don't have to say I'm sorry. You can say thank you. I was unaware. So I'm just going to give you these examples here, and then maybe I'll share a few of my own. But so if you don't say sorry, what do you say? Having an alternative language in your back pocket, and again, I'm going to scroll here, but what the information that I bring you guys, or that I share with you, is so that you can create your own toolbox, right? I've talked about having a big self-help toolbox. It's the thing that you can open the door, or open the drawer and pull something out so that you can again take back your power. So this is just another tool in your toolbox, right? So replacing I'm sorry with thank you is a great place to start. There's something disarming when you can acknowledge and experience the other person might have. So you're taking it off of you and actually putting it back on them. So here are some of the phrases that Campbell recommends using instead of I'm sorry. Thanks for sharing your perspective. I'll make sure to make these changes next time. I hear you. I'll make adjustments. Or I hear you. Here are my thoughts. Thanks for understanding my decision, even though we don't see eye to eye. Thank you for waiting for me. Thanks for adding that. Here's my perspective. So you're saying thank you because your thank you actually acknowledges the other person. Doesn't make them wrong, doesn't make you right, and it doesn't vice versa. So they're not right and you're wrong, and they're not wrong and you're right. Does that make sense? So here's a great example. I had a client who needed to reschedule, and a lot of times, they have access to me by sending me a text message. And so she said, I'm sorry about something. And I was like, why is she apologizing? We all have lives. We get to go live and do things. And an opportunity came up and she was apologizing for it. And I was like, that's not necessary. So again, and that's a conversation I would have with her, but, you know, hey, listen, something's come up for me. And so I need to reschedule. That's all she would have had to say. Not, I'm sorry that I can't show up, because something amazing has happened for her. And even if it wasn't amazing, it wouldn't matter. She gets to live her life and you get to live your life. So you don't have to apologize for rescheduling. Something came up, life happens, right? Here would be another example. We live in a world of a lot of emails or responding quickly. And I'll be honest with you guys, I have taken all social media off of my phone, and so now I either have to get on my computer or I have to get on my iPad because that's where I'm recording my videos and that's where my social media apps now are. And so I don't respond to comments immediately. I mean, you hear people say like, "Well, and I was guilty of it. That's why it's no longer on my phone." I wanted to make sure that I was showing up for my clients or for people on social media. And here's the thing, I have a life too. And so for me, in order to do that, I had to take the apps off of my phone so that when I sit down at my desk to record videos or to do work time, which I call it's my passion time, that's when I go look at comments. So I'm not looking 24/7 to see who commented. I get it to it within 24 hours. And then like next week, I'm not going to be around as much. I'm taking some time with my family. So, but I'm not apologizing for that. I'm not apologizing for enjoying and loving my life. I just won't be around. And so with that in mind, we send emails or people text us and we say I'm sorry a lot. And I had this thought before I started recording, customer service. How many of you either work in customer service or you've had to deal with customer service? How many times do you say or have you heard, I'm sorry, let me see how I can fix that? Or I'm sorry that happened to you. Instead of saying I'm sorry, because we're conditioning customer service and we're conditioning how we think customer service should be showing up. Here's the thing, and this is a great example, and I can only share this because my husband works for the cable company, is that, he would show up at someone's house and something would be wrong with the cable. Now, he was there to fix it, right? But he's not responsible if let's say the cable broke or a squirrel chewed through it. He would come home with tell me funny stories of how a squirrel chewed some wire, and so that line had to be replaced. So he's not responsible for the squirrel. He's not responsible for weather. But we've been taught in customer service that everything is our fault. And so let's say I couldn't make a video. Like last week, I tried to go live and I didn't know I needed to have 50 subscribers. No big deal. But I could do it on my computer, but then my webcam wasn't working. So is it my fault that my webcam wasn't working? No, it's a technical thing. And I'm not fully responsible for that. I'm responsible for showing up and doing the video, but I'm not responsible for all the stuff that goes on in the background. Does that make sense? So if we could shift that for ourselves and maybe, I don't know, maybe someone in customer service is watching this and you're thinking, I think I need to change this. And there's a movement in customer service that says, thank you for bringing this to our awareness. Let me see what I can do to fix this or to correct it. Because it's not their fault. If something comes like, and this is the perfect time too, because it's the holiday season. How many times do people's shipments get messed up? We are humans and we need to show grace to all people, but it's very hectic this time of year in the shipping and the mailing and customer service and all of those things. So, but instead of us taking on all of the responsibility of the things that may happen, we just take responsibility for, hey, thank you for bringing this to our awareness. Let's see what we can do to work this out. That feels so much better and I even think like, ooh, because again, you guys, I am human. I still say I'm sorry. And sometimes I catch myself and sometimes I don't. Now, I do not say I'm sorry as often as I used to. Like I was one of those people. I was a constant, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for showing up and taking space and breathing and being in your bubble. And that didn't feel very good, obviously. But again, there's hidden or there's layers to it. So I hope that makes sense and that resonates with you. So let's go back to, and this is the last piece of advice, and then I'll let you guys go for the day. Thanks for hanging out for so long. The last thing that the article says is to encourage yourself. Remember that if an apology is needed, Campbell says there's nothing wrong with apologizing. That's not what we're talking about here today. The key is to only apologize for what you're sorry and responsible for. However, deciding to stop over analyzing is easy. That's the first step, is deciding that I'm going to acknowledge or have the awareness that I over apologize. She says, but the doing it part is the hard part. And this is why she recommends preparing yourself by anticipating some of the difficult responses that you may receive from others and rehearsing how you're encouraged and comfort yourself. You're allowed to take up space, have your voice be heard, or offer an opinion, even if those things sound challenging and confronting. So, again, if this is new or something that feels really uncomfortable, it's okay to be uncomfortable, but you are allowed to let your light shine. And that's really what I want you to hear in all of this is that you're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be who you are. You're allowed to have your own opinions about things, your own thoughts, your own beliefs, your own feelings. And so I intend that this video gives you the opportunity to have more awareness of how often do you say, I'm sorry? And then maybe have the awareness that it's time to shift that. It's time to, again, I'm going to say this, but to let your light shine and to show up and take space. Because by doing so, you're going to build your self confidence, your self worth, and your self esteem. And that's very important in being, having, and doing what you want in this life, right? You got to show up. So, again, I hope that this resonates with you. Please, if you feel comfortable, this can, this is one of those topics that some people can feel uncomfortable even talking about. But if you're willing and you feel brave to do so, there's no judgments if you don't. But comment down below that this resonates and that you now have an awareness that you can show up a little differently and start using, the idea of thank you for bringing something to your awareness, or thank you. That's a great perspective. Here's mine. Is this something that you want to shift and that you're working on? So, all right, you guys, that's all I have for you today. If you haven't already, of course, please subscribe, hit that heart, share this if you want to. And I really, again, just hope that this resonates with you and it gives you some empowerment today. So, sending you lots of love, light, and really big hugs. Go be an amazing human. Mwah.